Hi. One of the funniest parts of going around, and explaining and presenting trips is that most of the reactions are like, well, trips doesn't make sense. Or at least at first, the dynamics I try to explain are not easily understood by people, and which is normal, I think, and it's actually a proof that we are onto something interesting. It is a little bit like, again, explaining the internet when nobody had ever yet tried it, right? It didn't make any sense. We were in a world where all the information was coming from newspapers or TVs, and at a certain point, we started hearing that you could, read data from websites, and this data was somewhere on some servers, and who was holding the servers? Well, anybody could, as long as you had a computer. So the first reaction to the internet was like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Who's going to control what people write? Who's going to make sure that it's true? And there were, who's going to make sure that illegal things are not published on the internet? These were the reactions, and the internet somehow survived. And of course, we still have problems like, fake news or illegal stuff online. But the internet works, and I would say it more than works. It's become the platform on which we do, like, most almost everything today, right? So it starts as something which people don't understand, and then it becomes an underlying technology for everything we do. And we stop worrying if you don't really understand how it works, and we kind of grasp the fact that it is more efficient than anything we had before. It's a bit like, again, democracy. I can imagine a time when, before democracy, let's forget for a moment ancient, Greek democracy, but let's go in a place where people all their life lived under a ruler, an emperor or a king, and then somebody came and said, okay, we, the people, will decide. And, I'm sure the reaction was like, this doesn't make any sense. How can everybody decide? You need one person to decide. And it's understandable that there's this reaction is, it's so strong. But then we live in democracy, or at least we live in something which is closer to the ideal of democracy than before, than on the time when we were under a ruler, right? So I'm not trying to argue that we are in democracy. That's the last thing I want to do. But the moment we set our eyes on a democratic environment, we moved into the direction, and we are more democratic than before. And nobody is questioning democracy anymore. Everybody is like, okay, no, this is a bit too strong. Democracy is one of the recognized ways to organize human societies, and while we know it's clear the limits it has, we also understand it has incredible advantages, right? And the same thing, exactly the same thing happened and still happening with cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency, where you try to explain them how it works and why it does make sense, and people were like, no, this doesn't make sense. Bitcoin is not real money. It's not baked by anything. I think, what's his name? James Diamond is he from Morgan Chase or JP Morgan? Just a couple of days ago in a hearing somewhere in the United States, he was saying, Bitcoin that's not backed by anything. And that's the kind of, reasoning which we understand. But once you understand how Bitcoin works, you go like, okay, it doesn't need to be backed by anything. And that doesn't make sense again. But still, we people are transacting in Bitcoin, and cryptocurrencies are becoming more and more common. Again, it starts as something you don't understand and it doesn't make sense, and then it just becomes a platform on which you do everything else. So when I present trips and the reaction is like, okay, this doesn't make sense, I take it as a good sign, not as a bad sign. On the other hand, if you're going out with a revolutionary startup and people go like, oh yeah, that's great, I was waiting for this, this makes sense, well, I will take this as a red flag, regarding how revolutionary it is, not regarding how successful it can be. Of course, it can be successful, but if you do something really revolutionary, I don't really like this word, but if you do something which really changes everything, then it doesn't make sense at the beginning. A couple of things where trips doesn't make sense to most people is like when I say, okay, we're gonna open this company. Actually, we did open the company in Tallinn a couple of weeks ago in Estonia, because it has a good, one of the best regulatory frameworks for blockchains in general, whatever that means and whatever that will mean in the future. But still, it's a good starting point. And so we opened the company and we're raising money. We're like, we need money. You can buy shares of this company, and then we're gonna do all we can to keep this company as small as possible. And of course, the reaction is like, what do you mean? I'm investing in something, I want it to become big. And no, and we say what has to become big here is the platform, is the, in a way, we would like to have a company with one employee and generating 1 million bookings a day. That's the ideal situation. We don't want a company with 1,000 employees and 1,000 bookings a day, right? That's not the point. The point is getting bookings. The point is having property manager and host on one side and guests on the other side, and companies on top of it, service software companies on top of it, transacting and creating an ecosystem where the platform itself, it's not heavy duty, is not getting money out of it, is getting as little money out of it and leaves the money on the table for everybody else, right? So, and that's very hard to grasp. We are used to think, okay, you start a company and you make it as big as you can, you attack, and then you start with this warfare, terminology. You attack markets, you conquer markets, you create a mold, you don't let other people attack you, you have an advantage over the others, competitive advantage. And that's the way we've been working so far. But what we're trying here with Trips, and other people are trying this with other companies on the blockchain, is to stay small and to be a facilitator of the platform. It's not like this, but it's maybe easier to understand if I tell you. It's a bit like the company which created the internet, which of course does not exist, but the people who created the internet didn't become a big company, right? They kind of disappeared. And then huge companies were built on top of the internet, like Google or others, right? So that's one of the things people don't really understand at the first glance, and that of course makes sense not to understand it. So there's nothing wrong with that. Another of the difficult to grasp concept is like when I say, okay, we need your help because we are not gonna try to create a big company. We want to create a big environment, a big community where people are working, and we're gonna give you, we need from you real work. You need to do something really valuable, and in exchange we give you this fake money, which the fake money is our tokens, is Trips. Fake money, of course, is a bit an exaggeration. It's not like we give you money we should think is money, and actually it's not. We tell you this is not worth today, it doesn't have a price, but in a way it anchors the value of the ecosystem to your wallet. What do I mean by that? You get these tokens and you put them in your online wallet. It's an app on your phone, it's nothing complicated, and they're worth nothing. You can't sell them, okay? If the project becomes successful, not the company in Estonia, the project itself, right? The ecosystem becomes successful, probably these tokens will acquire monetary value, market value. People will want to buy them. And there you are. You worked for this fake money for a year. You collected a few thousands of them. And now these few thousands can be sold for, dollars or euro. Of course, you're probably going to have to go through Bitcoin or Ethereum before, but still they have monetary value, right? You exchange them for Ether or Bitcoin, and then you exchange them for euro for your daily life. So again, real work for fake money doesn't make any sense. Well, if you go deep, it does make sense, and it could be actually a good bet. So what I want to say is that for Trips to start making sense to you, the whole mental framework has to change in the same way it changed when you started experiencing the internet, or if you're already into crypto, when you started getting used to the idea of crypto in general. Like another example is that we are used to think that companies need to make profit, and profit is like the end game, and that's the only way we found as society to create value in a very efficient way. So companies as a social construct are the most efficient way we found to basically put people together and make them build something valuable. So valuable now that big companies as Google again, or Facebook or Amazon, are stronger and richer than entire countries. So this proves that companies can kind of work better than nations in terms of wealth and power creation. And so what we're proposing here, what we're trying, it's an experiment we're doing, and it's the nicest thing about TRIPS is like it's a great experiment of social like how to organize society differently. And we are trying to do something which we could call, I'm sure there are better terms, but network profit compared to company profit. Let's say in a company you would like invest money, you put €1,000, and then one day you're gonna do your exit, and then you're gonna get your €10,000 out of it, and this 9,000 extra you got comes from the profit the company made. That's how things work. In network profit, it works differently. You put €1,000 or the equivalent in work, in hours of your work, in trips, and then you save €1,000 in commissions through the OTAs, right? So you get your bookings through trips instead of OTAs. You saved €1,000. There you are. You got your money back. And if you save €2,000, there's your profit. So this is not really measurable in the way that it appears on spreadsheets of the company profits, but it's real. If you saved €1,000 or €10,000 in commissions, then it's the same thing as actually making the money. I would say it's even more, because you don't have pay taxes on them. Shit. So if you save €1,000, you have your money back. If you save 2,000, you got your profit. If you save 10,000, you have 9,000 profit. So how do we call that? I don't know. This is just a different way to spread the wealth you created, right? And so let's call it network profit. It could stick as a concept. And yeah, so it doesn't make sense. And the nice thing about the experience of getting into trips is how it becomes conceptually a rabbit hole. You look into this hole and you're like, I'm not gonna go down there, I don't understand, it's dark. Then you get in and you see something interesting, and you keep getting in, and it opens a completely new world. All right, so this is really exciting. If you are a curious person, I mean, trips is gonna be a nice adventure, at least, even if it doesn't become the success we want it to become. Okay, so let's see if it makes sense in 5 years. Bye.